In this video, we'll be using a pair of outside micrometers graduated in US customary units to measure a part. When we're done with this video, you'll be able to identify the parts of a micrometer as well as read the scale on a micrometer to measure a part. The micrometer is a precision measuring instrument capable of reading to 1/10,000th of an inch or 0.0001 in resolution. Looking at the parts of the micrometer, we're going to start from the left at what we call the anvil. So here's our anvil. To the right of the anvil, we have our spindle. So we actually take the part that we're going to measure and we place it between the spindle and the anvil, and that's our measuring point. Next, we have our frame. So this is our physical frame, and on our frame, we have our lock. And what that lock does is we can press that lock and it makes it to where our measurement is captured, and we can take an accurate measurement using that. Next to the right of that, we have our barrel, and our barrel has our actual measurements on it that we will be reading. And to the right of that, we have our thimble. So this is our physical thimble. And on the end of the thimble for this particular model, we have our ratchet stop. So when we bring this up to the part that we're wanting to measure, we can use this for coarse adjustments. For fine adjustments, we're going to take it over to the ratchet stop. And when it gets to the point where it's at the correct measurement, it will actually slip and click. And then we can press our lock to get our measurement. Now, not all micrometers are made the same. This particular pair of micrometers is capable of reading from 0 to 1 inch, while this set of micrometers will read from 3 to 4 inches. To the right, you'll note that the ratchet stop is absent on this one, so there is no ratchet stop. However, it has what's called a friction sleeve. So on the thimble for this one, it has a sleeve that when you get close to the dimensions you switch over to, and the physical sleeve will slip and allow for you to get the accurate reading. Now, it's very important to make sure that you don't over tighten these on the components, because they can actually distort and they can give inaccurate readings and can be permanently damaged. When measuring a part with a pair of micrometers, the first thing that we want to do is determine the rough measurement of the part. So what I'll use is I actually use a steel rule and I'll place it up against my part. And I can see that my part falls between 3 and 4 inches, which means that I will use my micrometers that measure in the 3 to 4 inch scale. So it would be this pair right here. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to physically clean my micrometers, and I'm going to wipe off both the spindle and the anvil to confirm that there's no dust or even fingerprints on that, because we are measuring at such a fine resolution that just the oil on your skin is enough to give you a variance in your measurement. Next, I'm going to take my part and I'm physically going to wipe that down as well. So I've got a clean part and I've got a clean pair of micrometers. When measuring with micrometers, open the micrometer by turning the thimble counterclockwise to retract the spindle face away from the anvil face. Continue turning it until the opening is larger than the part we're going to be measuring. So we'll take our thimble and we're going to spin it, and we're going to make it to where it's larger than the part that we're going to measure. That's the first step. The next step, we're going to take the part and we're going to place it between the anvil and the spindle face. Turn the thimble clockwise by turning the friction sleeve on the end of the thimble to extend the spindle face. Continue turning until the spindle face contacts the end of the shaft. This is called closing the micrometer. Continue turning until the friction sleeve starts to slip. This will cause the thimble to stop turning. Turn the locking lever to lock the micrometer scale into its place, and then we can read our measurement. So we will take our part and we will place it between the anvil and the spindle, and we will turn our thimble using our friction sleeve on the thimble to close the micrometers. You can see that my friction sleeve is starting to spin up against it, and I'm going to kind of rock my part just a little bit to make sure that it's good and flat in there and I'm getting the most accurate reading. Once I get that, I'm going to take my lock and I'm going to press my lock, and then I can actually take my part back out. Reading our micrometers, we're going to start with our base length. And we used the steel rule earlier and we determined that the base length of our part started at 3 inches. So the first step we're going to do is 3 inches. The next step is we're going to read our sleeve scale. So this is our sleeve scale, and it reads 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can see the 6 just slightly, but we can't count it because we don't see the 6 mark. So it's going to be 5. So it will actually be 0.5. Each one of these marks after the 5, the little marks, are 0.025. So we see 1, 2, 3 marks after the 5. So that's going to be 7, 5. So 2, 5 plus 2, 5 plus 2, 5 equals 7, 5. So that scale reads 5 or 0.575. Next, we're going to go to our thimble scale, and it reads using the same line right here, using this line, and we can see that it hasn't quite made it to the 1.7 yet, so we're going to count that as 1/6. So that will be 0.016. To achieve our measurement to the 10,000ths, next we're going to rotate our micrometer up, and we're going to use our vernier scale on the micrometer, and we're going to look for a single line that travels across and lines up perfectly. So looking at this one, we're going to keep rotating until we see when it lines up. And we can see that the 1 on this one lines up with the 7. So our 7 is going to be our measurement for that one. So then we're going to do 0.0007. So once we have all of those measurements, we take all of them and we add them together. So 3.575, 0.016, and 0.0007 equals 3.5917.